good evening, and welcome to this Sunday, August 8th edition of the Island Stats Cricket Show. I'm your host, Earl Beeston, and joining me are co-hosts Andre Doc Manders and Dean Miners. We'll be joined by the Director of Youth and Sport, Mr. Norbert Simons, at the bottom of the hour. But let's just look at some of the results of earlier today, guys, and we do want to get into some of the things, Doc, I know you would have seen in the first game at Seabreeze Oval. The extras are still outrageous, man. Literally, when you start talking about 40 the extras, 41 extras, and all that, that's way too many. Way too many. The wides are. You would have thought now that they're 6 weeks in. You gotta work at it. If not, it's gonna just continue. But in the first division, Western Stars won by 23 runs over Cleveland County. Western Stars scored 164 for 4, with Cleveland scoring 141 for 3 in reply. Somerset Bridge won by 7 runs over Devonshire Recreation Club. Somerset Bridge scored 178 for 3, and Devonshire Recreation Club scored 171 for 6. The final game in the first division saw Warwick Workmen's Club defeat PHC by 39 runs. Warwick scored 164 for 8, and PHC scored 125 for 8. At Southampton Oval in the Premier Division, Southampton Rangers beat St. David's by 7 wickets. St. David's scored 88 for 8 in their 20 overs, with Southampton Rangers scoring 90 for 3 in 8.3 overs. And currently at the Seabreeze Oval now, Bailey's Bay have defeated Willowcott by 85 runs. Bailey's Bay scored 215 for 5, and Willowcott could only manage 130 for 9 in their 20 overs. I want to go back as we were talking. Let's talk about this Bailey's Bay Willowcott's game. Extras for Willowcott's, 22 wides. 22 wides. Bailey's Bay bowled 22 wides. Willowcott's bowled 18 wides. And those wides could be added 4s at all, but if you start adding it up, that's, when your extras total in Bailey's Bay's inning, Zico Burgess scored 58 from 12 deliveries, 2 4s and 8 6s. Taryn Frey scored 47 from 35. Azende Ferbert scored 36 from 36. Rodney Trott and Coolidge Durham both scored 21. Rodney came off a 17 and Coolidge came off a 21. But they also had the 30 extras, 4 no balls, 5 leg byes, and 4. But when you hear that, Dean, as a wicketkeeper, what goes through your mind?
Well, that's the game right there. That is the game in a nutshell. When you're talking about that many extras, that's everyone's been on holiday. I get it. Everyone's been on holiday, and everyone's dialing back in. But it's a sin in 2020 cricket. The minute that I would hypothetically say, the minute that you go across 10 extras, and I'm going to include in this 4 leg byes, because you're going to get leg byes.
Yes.
If the batsmen are going to be challenging the fielders. But when you're talking about wides, those things can be controlled. The leg byes can be controlled.
Right.
When you're talking about bye runs going past the wicket keep for 4, that's something that can be controlled. That's in your control in a 2020 game. But when you're talking about wides and things like that, that's a sin. The other point that I made that I want to make, and I was listening to your the analysis, is that no team was being bowled out. So that is a good team. That is a good thing in the 2020 game. You shouldn't be bowled out. that's another plus for a lot of the cricket that we're seeing here. Is teams are not being, of course, they're not being built out, but I'm looking forward to looking at how many singles and doubles are being made. I want to also look at the number of runouts, because also I know that a lot of teams, as we know here, typically it's 4s and 6s.
Yes.
It's not singles, doubles, those sort of things. So this week I'm going to be doing a little analysis to see if the singles are increasing, the doubles are increasing, and to see how many teams are capitalizing on those singles and doubles.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Doc? I know we're going to get to the first match, which was Cleveland County and Western Stars. Looking at I'll go to it now, but Cleveland County. Let's just bring up their scorecard. They gave up 26 wides, 26, and total extras was 33. That was, and it was Trey scored 86 not out, and the second highest score was the extras with 33. You put that in the mix, that's where they got their 164 from.
But you said that, Earl, that's even 3 extra overs.
Yeah.
Think about it. That's 3 extra overs. And so, that 3 extra overs probably cost Cleveland the game.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
Not only that, Bears Bay was lucky because they scored 212. They billed 22. Willicott's billed 3 extra overs. They billed 18. So there's all those games they billed 3 extra overs. Billed all those games. I mean, we definitely need to work on the wides. And I don't know what the problem is, because we've been playing 2020 for the whole season. So these guys should be to find a length. No, it's difficult. This is, of course, in a lot of the Premier teams and First Division teams. They be resulted in a lot of the games.
Yeah. It almost looks as if they're not training.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the surface, it looks like they're not training. Because if you train at something and you practice it over and over and over, you get a little better at it. But for these numbers, man, oh man.
And then the other thing is right now, or what is on, if you don't mind, what is on TV now? You see the 100, right?
Yes.
So the 100 is taken over. But when these guys are, from a keeper's perspective, when these guys are bowling, the thing about it is almost, it's about containment. In a 2020 game, it's just about, if a dot ball is bowled, that's almost like a wicket. That's added pressure. I don't think, I think a lot of these guys are thinking that the minute that they get hit, you're gonna get hit.
Yes.
And I've heard conversations where guys get nervous in the sense that the minute that I get hit for 2 boundaries, it's panic.
Yeah. I don't want to get hit again, so I build a wide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're building and you're building into the power play. So even if you're up front, the ball's going to swing around a bit, and that's going to happen, for a little bit, but then that wears off. But if you're building with inside the power play, yes, you're going to get hit. And then the other thing is, where's your stock ball?
Right.
So just like you said, Earl, I mean, I've seen, whereas yesterday I got a chance to have a look at Tough Dogs and Devonshire Red, right? In the Central Connors, limited overs, right? So, but the thing is, it's talking to the builders. It's like, okay, where's your line? What are you trying to do? What is your plan? And I think that a lot of guys really, and they set their field. There's no plan.
You look at it, I've been watching, and you would see it a lot as well, Doc. The bowler's getting ready to bowl, and the wicket keeper is the one setting the field. There's no communication. But if you're not training together, wherever you're putting the field, it's because if the bowler doesn't know why you're putting him or the fielder there, it kind of defeats the purpose, because if you're setting an onside field and he's building on the offside or vice versa, if you're not communicating with him or you're not even training together, it makes it that much more difficult to be successful.
But Earl, but
That's
and I'll ask Doc, because I'm biting at the bit, right? Doc, as a captain, how many times, right? And you have to make this, how many times were you in a situation where the bowler bowled a good ball, the batsman basically hit this good ball, but you knew the difference between a bad ball and a good ball, and giving respect to the batsman?
Right.
exactly.
I'm seeing times whereas the batsman, will hit a good ball, a good length ball, and it gets hit for 4, and the fielder changes. And I'm thinking to myself, why? Because the thing about it, at the end of the day, you've got to respect the batsman and say, listen, hey, you hit a good ball. How many times have you experienced that, Doc?
A few times, Dean. And like you said, in the 2020 game, you can't keep chucking a chance to the field. Mistakes like that. Like you said, it's going to be a good ball that these guys, sometimes, with all the improvisation and hand coordination and eye coordination, their best ball sometimes is going to be hit. Not only that, sometimes I was watching both games on Bears Bay today, and also good balls go for 4 edges, like edge cross side edges, and they're going to the boundary. So what both teams was doing, they took the guy from up in the circle and put him back. I said, why? That's a good ball. He's got to even pick up. Give it. Why you? So this is things that you have to learn. You can't keep changing field placement because these guys are scoring right there. Because like you said, you can't keep doing that.
Right. It was funny because I remember when I was over the other side when Willicott started to bowl at Bayless Bay. They were setting the field for the previous ball, not for the coming up ball.
No way. Yeah.
They kept doing it. They literally kept doing it. So wherever the ball was hit, they would put a fielder there.
Yeah.
But then the bowler couldn't keep that same line. So I'm like, just set your field. And if, like Doc said, if it's a good ball, it ain't nothing you could do about it.
No.
But what you
I remember.
is you force the bowler to find that length each time. Because eventually the batsman will make a mistake. Yeah.
I remember the oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I understand, as a bowler, Dean and Earl, you should know right away your field placement. There's no way. Sometimes, okay, you can keep the captain like most things, but as a bowler, you should know basically where you're going to build it and what field. If you don't know by now what field or what plan you're going to be building it, then you can't build any 2020. I'm sorry, you have to know. You got to go in for game plan, and you got to try to build it. Sometimes you just go to the captain or to the big keeper and say, look, this is what you want. But as a builder, you have to know. There's no way the big keeper should be setting the field for the builders every time. No way. I'm seeing that too often already in 2020.
Yeah. And it's obvious. And the other thing is time. In between overs, and then you're setting it or you're changing the field.
Yeah.
If you want a guy come from long off to back with a square and his running across, I'm like, what is going on? And there are some teams that try and hide players. So, that's another thing going on. So it's something.
I mean, the other point that I make is I never forget this conversation that I had with this guy Chris Lewis from England years ago when we had the 2020 here, right? He was, we had this conversation, and it was so true. He was like, when he bowls, right, the same guy that bowled to Brian Lara, and Brian Lara got his 400, right? Well, when he bowls, he told me, he says, there are 3 main guys on this field that are the most important when I bowl. Right. So, let's hypothetically say, he might be bowling to, a left-hander, right? And, a waist swinger, right? So he bowled a waist swinger. He just says, short cover, middle off, middle on. That's it for me, you know. And he says, I'm gonna pitch this ball. I'm gonna dictate to the batsman what I want him to do. He's not gonna dictate to me. And I think what happens is, I think bowlers don't understand that you have to know, say to the batsman, I'm gonna make you do what I want you to do. It's a game. That's the game.
Right.
That's the challenge.
The challenge,
It's almost like I'm gonna make you do what I want you to do, and that's how I'm gonna get you out. So there's this strategic game plan. It's not like I'm bowling and hoping. It's almost like I'm bowling and I'm gonna set you up. I'm gonna make you play her. I'm gonna make you play her, and that's all it is. It's that whole thing. And now the batsman now has to figure out, what does he want me to do?
Right.
What is he trying to do?
Yeah.
So I think, to me, that's so important that the guys understand the whole thing with bowling. It's the art.
Yeah. I remember watching top batsmen play against someone like Malinga, who his actions allows him to build a lot of Yorkers. So to take that away from him, guys used to bat out of the crease. And folk now,
or deep in the crease.
Deep, right. Or deep back, or to make him change his line. Yeah, so it's a battle. It's one of those battles, that you have to win. You got 6 balls to do it. Just you're holding him out, for that period of time. But the batsmen have to. You have to, like you said, that battle between batsman and bowler. Hey, today you might win it. Tomorrow you might lose it. But it's one of the things where, like you said, Doc, the bowler has to know what he's trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And everybody on the field has to know what he's trying to achieve as well. Am I trying to bowl Dean out? Am I trying to get Dean caught? If I give Dean his favorite shot and early in his inning, his timing's off, so he always gives a chance square or in front of square. So I put 2 guys in front of square. I put 1 guy square, and I give him the ball he likes early in the inning. If he hits it out, he hits it out. If he don't, he's out. But you gotta understand who is at the wicket, what that person likes, and what that person don't like. Simple as that. We're gonna take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll dive into that St. David's Southampton Rangers match. We'll be right back.
We're welcoming back the often featured Whole Food veterans Bragg Live Food Products, renowned for their live probiotic organic raw cider vinegar and savory seasonings. Paul Bragg is the man behind the products that has originated health food stores, restaurants and spas, and promoted nutrition education through the media, helping lay the foundation for the enlightened way we make healthful choices when we shop for and prepare food. This month we're featuring Bragg Organic Raw and Unfiltered Apple Cider Vinegar and Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. We're going to go to talk about the St. David's and Rangers match, but then we do have a question online. But looking at that, Dean, when you heard St. David's 88 for 8 in 20 overs, what's your first thought?
No application. No. I just think a bad day at the office. For St. David's to be 88 for 8, with the number of batsmen that they have, and they bat at first, so it could be wicket preparation. It's a few things that I can, or just like you said, bad batting, bad application. So,
well, I'm going to say this because I've watched them play over a period of time. When Gennaro, Dion, Malachi, when these guys get together, they build the overs quick. That's one thing they do.
Yes.
And the other thing they do is they restrict the batsmen. They tie them down because they go stump to stump, stump to stump. And if you can't get them away, before you know it, 10 overs are going, and you only have 20 or 30 runs on the board. So then the last 10 overs, you're struggling because the one thing that they don't do is take those singles. A lot of guys don't take singles. Keep the scoreboard ticking over. No, they're trying to, like you said, they're trying to hit the ball outside each and every time. They hit it to the boundary each and every time. But a single, you're rotating the strike. Eventually, the bowler loses his line, and then it becomes that much more easier. And then you can actually hit it outside. You can hit it to the boundary. If you look at it, okay, so Ricardo made 29 from 46. Derek made 11 from 24. Brian Hole made 16 from 26. Lauren Marshall got 14 from 8. Ajon was out after 4 bowls without scoring. Semi played. He was out for 1 after 4 bowls. Kevin Hurdle was out for 5 after 3 bowls. You know, so the bowls are racking up, and Rangers only billed 10 wides, 11 extras.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, as you're go again.
No, I was saying that, like you said, Dean, that's got to become from application or wicket, because if you see, I haven't seen Rangers wicket, but I noticed that a lot of the teams that have been playing up there always seem like they've been batting last. So maybe about being had the rain around, I don't know, but that sounds like, that seems like the balls been more balls runs. Like a lot of the guys, what somebody made 26 runs and 40 something balls. That's like
that's not Ricardo. As we know, he likes to hit the ball.
Seems like something's like the ball. That seems like the ball's not coming on the pitch or something. Right. Definitely for Ricardo, even Derek, a few of the other guys, it seems like something happened there. But it'll be interesting to see how Rangers manage 80 for 3. How much over to day back?
8.3.
Oh.
But okay, so the first game was Warwick and PHC. So the difference in the game, PHC scored 125 in their 20 overs. They had 32 extras in that, right? So let's take out half of those extras. They don't make 100. Warwick had 21 extras. PHC billed 21 extras. You take out half of that, they're now down to 140. Even par of T20. That's what you see a lot of times, even par between 140, 160. You know what I mean? So where Rangers didn't give up the extras, those two teams in the first game gave up all these extras and allowed the score to balloon.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's the team.
No, well, Nern Gennaro, those guys that have had the experience of playing in 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about Dion, you're talking about Malachi, you're talking about Gennaro. These guys have played the 2020. They know that rushing through your overs very quickly, right? Putting the pressure on the batsman, tidying field, and again, it's dictating to them. So, of course, when you're telling me that their strike rate is way on. It's nowhere near 100. You're talking about it. Their strike rate has to be about 50. And in this type of cricket, your strike rate has to be above 100.
Yes.
You have to be batting at a run a ball. So the minute that you start to get tied down, your strike rate is going down. So it's all about, you know what I mean, rotating to keep a run a ball. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Because
Ricardo's strike rate was 63.
Sorry?
Ricardo's strike rate was 63.4.
Yeah, it's
Derek's was 45.
Yeah,
Brian Holes was 61. The only person, Kevin Hurdle scored 5 off of 3 balls. 1 was a 4. So his strike rate was, yeah.
So in when you're talking about there, you got to be scoring. You got to be scoring. That's this game, and you got to think quick as well.
Like you said, a dot ball is a wicket.
Big.
So any ball you get your bat to, you should be looking to get a run.
Exactly.
That should be your mindset.
Yes.
Yeah, but also when you say dot balls are wicket, but sometimes you're gonna get those dot balls.
Yeah.
But you can always catch up in the end. You know what I mean? Because you got a boundary, and then that dot ball it's basically I was doing this game plan in 2020. Like most teams in the 2020, Ron is good. Like if you look at it, most teams are in the 20 overs at day back. get about maybe about 10 to 11 dot balls.
Right. Right.
And if special teams that are scoring hard.
Yes.
So you're going to allow the dot balls, but the thing is, you have to, you have to capitalize after it. You got to put away. You have to put away the dead balls, and that's what down here we don't do. And then again, like you guys talking about these singles.
Yes.
Rotating the strike left and right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you got a left and right batsman,
It's important to keep rotating the strike because the bowler don't know which side the bowler will know.
Because you're going to get bowlers that build good balls, and you got to respect it. But in Bermuda, we bet down here we build too many bare balls. Each over I see like 2 or 3 bare balls, and if you score off that, you score a 6 and a 4 or something like that. That's 14, or another 4. That's 14 runs and over.
Right.
Whereas the first 3 were dot balls all good.
Right.
I saw that today with Cleveland and Bay's game. At Bay's game, like I said, this guy's good over. Let me see if you can keep it. The last 2 balls, guess what? 6 and a 4.
Yeah.
Right up.
Demoralized. Demoralized.
And it's hard. And it's not like they ain't done anything. It was just like, I'm talking about like short ball, full toss. So what's between like your first 3 balls and then your last 2 balls? What's the mindset? But that's what our players need to do. You have to continue on. You build a mid in Bermuda right now. You in Bermuda cricket, you're doing good. I haven't seen that for a while.
Yeah. So we have this question, guys, a bit off the topic, but speaking of a sin, are you able to speak on the actions taken by our clubs in regards to behavior/conduct of players, which can sometimes bring the game into disrepute? Do you know if clubs allow the ICC code of conduct like I think the umpires may, or is the behavior just brushed under the carpet and ignored? I'm going back to cup match, for example, or do we let bygones be bygones despite cricket supposed to be a gentleman's game? We've been talking about the Portman for quite some time.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's a good I'm
glad Angelina brought that up because it's been discussed for a lot of years. Like, a lot of the players got to remember, like, it's on TV now. A lot of the seniors watch it. It's worldwide. So we have to be on, it's interesting now because I think the clubs got to have to do more to control that during a cup match. Like, I know the umpires, we got to remember that umpires took done a report too. So we don't know what the umpires report's going to be.
Right.
I talked to heard after the game that from some of the reports that I got that some of the umpires did put a report in about what happened on the field. So let's see what happened on that.
Yeah. I just think a lot of things have to be addressed at the time that things happen. As you guys know, when you play international cricket and an incident happens on the field, you're taken to the match official after the game, and you're handed you're asked the question: do you plead guilty or not guilty to these that the umpires have reported? And it's dealt with on the day at the time, right there and then. You don't need to go to no having this other group of people that's going to oversee this. They don't do that. We deal with it right away, literally right away.
I agree.
I just want to add to that there, you guys. Yes, Angeline, there is a code of conduct, and you have different offenses that if any player brings a game into disrepute, then there's a code 1, code 2, code 3. So there are offenses that the umpires, according to the ICC. Now, I'm believing that these umpires here will follow the ICC code of conduct, and then I believe that clubs, because they're independent of cup match, it's a very weird space.
Cup match doesn't fall under the BCB.
Right. Yeah. So the cup match doesn't fall under the BCB.
Right.
And so on top of that, I believe that so the clubs will align themselves with the umpires in what code that they go ahead and follow. But it's interesting that you say that because somebody else brought it to my attention. They said to me that within the last 5 years, within the last 5 years, there has been an incident every cup match. And I think you are right in that it does have to be addressed, because there's a difference between, and Doc would know about this, it's gamesmanship and sportsmanship. And I think a lot of the players don't understand that there's a fine line with gamesmanship and sportsmanship. So yesterday, I was able to watch a little bit of a test match. And one of the Indian bowlers, I forget his name, good bowler, what he was doing with the Sibley, the opening bat of England, what he did was, he had a few words with him. But the words were not sort of, and we could attest to this, the words were not of hate or whatever. It could have been along the lines of, you got lucky, or, ooh, you just, so it wasn't, because remember the ICC had to crack down years ago with the Australians, because the Australians got very, we know that they went over the top a couple of times.
Yeah.
So everybody right now, especially at the ICC level, is, from what I've heard and what I've read, is just that it's a very fine line. You still get those professional players that go over the line, but it's the gamesmanship. And I think that a lot of our players don't understand gamesmanship again, because it's still sportsmanship. You're going to get banter in cricket. You're going to get banter in all the sports, but it has to be controlled. It's still a respecter, but it has to be controlled. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I'm very concerned about, because a lot of the former cup match players have come to me and asking, what can we do? What are some of the things that we can do to support this? So we don't want to take the aggressiveness out of the cricket, but it's just them understanding gamesmanship and psychological gamesmanship. Mm. But I totally agree with what she's saying, that we need to now come together and start to, address some of the things that we see, because our cricket is social. I mean, our cricket is on the social media sites.
Yes.
I mean, it's all over the world. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, that is a good question. And what can we do?
Yeah, yeah.
We have to start having the difficult conversation.
Right.
Yes. And I'm glad Angelina brought that up, but she's got it's like we talked about. We said it's up to the club now. But once the players already represent Bermuda, they know that they can't do that, because it's level 1, level 2, level 3, and right after the game it's about game extension.
Yeah.
Or whatever. When the players do that. But in cup match, it's a club thing. So now it's really up to the clubs to get involved, to at least talk to the players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you said, it's a fine line. It's a fine line in it. Everybody likes a little bit, but you got to make sure it's in the spirit of the game. You know what I mean? Because we all had it. And
the most important thing is, if you want to be able to dish it out, you have to be able to take it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Really. And that's the problem that we have. That is a major problem we have. Guys can, when they're on top, they can chop. The day they're not on top and the other chopping starts, they lose their mind.
But the other thing is, Earl, I think the other thing is, and the most important thing is, these guys have to remember that over the 2 days of cup match, even when you're just playing local cricket, you're still an entertainer. You're an entertainer.
Yes. Right.
You're a cricket player, but you're there to entertain. And when you're entertaining, especially on that level, you have to be, you've accepted the fact that, okay, I want to do this. Okay, well, fine. But when you're at that level and entertaining, that's why when you look at the past and you look at those cup match players, you'll see them, they're entertaining and they're on the best behavior and they're doing this and they're showing the skill. You're an entertainer. That's your brand. So why would you want to go out and tarnish your brand?
Yeah. Well, we're going to take another quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by the Director of Youth and Sport, Mr. Norbert Simons. We'll be right back.
We're spotlighting our old friends Woodstock Farms, who started up 50 years ago in the belief that we need more trustworthy natural food sources. Starting with one product, their line, mostly certified organic, is now more than 250 strong in 10 categories. This month we're featuring accoutrements of the barbecue, for us the pinnacle of home cuisine and one of the few forms of restorative recreation now within our reach. Try Woodstock Organic Sweet Relish, Tomato Ketchup, Baby Kosher Dill Pickles, Sauerkraut, and Hickory and Original Barbecue Sauce. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Good afternoon or good evening, Mr. Simons. Thank you for taking the time to join us here on the Cricket Show, the Island Stats Cricket Show. We were on a topic, and I'm pretty sure you were able to listen in a little bit as the ministry responsible for overseeing of rules, regulations, and making sure that our sporting bodies are adhering to the government side of rules and regulations, because obviously every sport has its own national governing body, but under the government's rules and regulations, how it's governed, your office is kind of the facilitator of making sure that clubs and sports abide by the rules. But very interesting comment we were talking about with behavior. From your standpoint, I know you're a former coach, and you are back in coaching track and field, but the deportment of some players, and not just we know it's not just football and cricket. We know it's a problem island-wide. Sometimes it's not reported in other sports, but looking at it from your standpoint as the director, what would you suggest? How would you suggest we address this as a country?
Well, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
As usual, it's a good program. I think that we have to take a holistic approach. We first of all, our clubs will have to be the vanguards for all sports that they manage. I can say that whatever standards clubs set, I'm sure they'll hold the coaches and the players accountable. But I go back to something that Dean and Andre and Doc were saying, that I don't think our players understand that they're entertainers.
Mm.
I really don't think that they understand their true value, because if they did, I think their whole approach to the game would change. Because I think they just going out on a Sunday afternoon to have a knock, and that's it. But they're not understanding that they're not only representing themselves, but they're representing their clubs, and they're representing their family, and ultimately they're representing the country. So at some point in time, the light bulbs got to go off, and got to come on, I should say, and for them to understand that their value is a lot greater than they think it is.
Mm.
Yeah. My question is, can you? I mean, what would be the first initial step? What would you say would be the first initial step? Should it be, the director of cricket at each club's pulling them together, and then basically saying to them, listen, can we do this? Can we do that? What would you say would be our first initial step?
Dean, there are a few steps that have to be taken in my view. Yes, I think that the director of clubs, because that's the way clubs have gone now, so they have directors, they should have a group meeting to sit down and understand and make a uniform throughout all programs.
Okay.
What's going to be accepted and what's not going to be accepted. If you look at some clubs, some clubs have strong discipline programs, and players will leave their club and go somewhere where they feel they can do whatever they like. So there's got to be a modicum of a standard that's got to be set. But I think we need to go back even further. I think we need to look at school sports starting at primary level and setting standards from there, because our school program used to be the feeder for our club programs. And so if we have to get our schools and our programs in schools to a place where our young athletes, footballers, cricketers, and the like, understand that these are conditions and the rules and everything else has got to be followed, right? And that when they put on that jersey, what it means. Because I really believe that even at the school level, our children don't understand the meaning and the value of that jersey. Dean, you went to Whitney. When you put on that Whitney jersey, you represented your school and you did what was necessary for pride for your school. All right. And so I think that's the element that's missing. And I think that has to start at an early age. By the time these young men and women reach their 20s, and if they don't have any ground structure, then you're asking them to do something that they're not comfortable or even know how to do.
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, they act out as opposed to conforming because that's just been the norm for them.
Yeah. Because I can go back to my days in coaching football at Somerset. You didn't allow anybody to drop that jersey on the floor.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Because that jersey represented Somerset Cricket Club. And I know that happened at PHC. I know that happened at Dandytown. When you put that jersey on, you were representing the club that you were associated with. And if you disrespected that jersey, not only will the membership, not only will the executive get on you, but you can guarantee your fans are going to get on you. If you can't respect this club, leave. You know, Doc, I'm sure you heard the talks about when Reggie Prim was up Somerset, because I could tell you times, and like I said to Dennis, Reggie Prim walked in the change room one day and told the football team, "You don't pay your dues. This is a cricket club. I don't care how good you are at football, I will cancel the football program." You know, and so I think that the standards have been dropped, not only in our clubs, but in our community, in our society. We don't demand much of anyone anymore. We just change the rules, and now we expect these same people that we have no rules for or lower the standards for to reach a high standard when they go to cup match. When they go to represent their country. You know, so why should they wait to go to an ICC tournament to be told that sledging or questioning the umpire is unacceptable? Well, we shouldn't have to wait that long. I think it should be made abundantly clear early. And if players are doing that, then, you know, clubs have to deal with it. I think that I looked at cup match even when I was there. I watched some things go on with some players, and I'm wondering why they're still playing. You know, but that has to be, standards have to be set. And I think that we have to go back to standards. There's nothing wrong with having standards.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things right now is the fall on abusive language in all our sports. It is totally out of hand now.
Yeah.
And only because it was never addressed at the start.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had it, but to where it is today, and Doc, we were at Seabreeze, and it was like common nature for players to be talking to one another using. I'm like, you guys don't know like a sentence without having to use a curse word? Come on. What's your thoughts, Doc?
And that was interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting you said that, Pearl, because it's so true what Norbert was saying, man. Like, the players nowadays, they got to remember to represent their club, and staff, and their family. Like, you know, like, if that was like, let's say, like, I mentioned when my son like carried on like that, you know, I'm gonna him off the field and you know, let him know. But I'm not just saying like that's just me, but in the sense of like they still gotta remember, like, you know, it the family and the clubs, like, you know, because club looks bad off it. And what we saw today down there with the players, you know, crossing the players off, is like, and you got a lot of young players that was in their team.
Right.
And I'm like, so what you guys are doing is now, what about your young, and I got some good young players in both teams. Like, so we need to start, like, you know, from now, like, stop that now, you know, because if the younger players say I'm doing that, how you think they're gonna react later?
I can do it. Yeah.
Exactly. So we need to stamp it out now, man. We definitely need to stamp it out now.
It's gonna be hard at the beginning, like anything else. but eventually the mindsets will change if we start putting the rules and standards in. You know, you can't say, oh, well, that's just the way these guys talk to each other. Well, as Dean said,
Yeah.
they're entertainers. So if you want to go to a comedy show where a guy's standing on the stage cursing, you go to the comedy show. When you're doing sports, that's not the place for it.
But another person said to me, right? And it just took me by surprise. All what we're talking about, guys cursing each other and everything like that. And then across the waters, you've got people all around the world that are saying, you know, taking a stance like Black Lives Matter. So, but, you know, but it's, you know, it's like, is it going to register?
Right.
You know, really, is it going to register? Like, we need to address this, because if we don't, you know, it's just going to be
getting worse.
what is going to be left. What is going to be left for the youngsters that are coming along? And that's the same thing. But just to shift it, I just want to ask Norbert this, because when I first came into Cup Match, Norbert was the manager of Somerset. Right? He was. How many years? How many years were you manager of Somerset's Cup Match team, Norbert?
Well, Dean, I was never a manager. I was the trainer medic.
Trainer medic, that's what it was.
Yeah, I started in, when was Richard's first Cup Match? 1985 or 80? Yeah.
Yeah.
85, right up to about, you know, right up to about 2004. Then I took a break and I came back for a year or two in 2010, 2011. Yeah, so yeah, I put a lot of time in, yeah.
Hey,
Norbert,
Norbert,
we need to go back. We need to go back.
What happened?
Because it looks like the years you were on, we were the champions.
Yeah, you were. You were. I mean, you know.
All right, Doc, Norbert's the medic for next year.
Yeah.
no, but Norbert was there and I was there too. So
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
remember,
we
Norbert
won
was there. He was the Willicott's guy, Dexter Richard. Hey, let me tell you, when Dexter Richard came in that team, especially Richard, that was my part. I used to like betting if anything. So you got to remember. I'll show you something. These license, we couldn't get over. Was that now that extra hour? If you were that extra hour, Dean, when we was playing against you, like when you guys at your peak, it might have been different.
What?
Seriously,
Yeah.
that extra hour has helped a lot. I'm telling
No,
you.
but tell me something. I gotta. What is the difference that you've seen when you look at Cup Match? When you look at everything that you've seen, do you think and the future, like the with the scaffolding, with the play, what have you seen? What have you seen it grow, or what are some of the things that you enjoy seeing? And
Well, first of all, I enjoy seeing Somerset win.
yeah, but that's the first
I should have
thing.
muted his mic. And I had my finger on it because I figured he was going to say that.
No, I enjoy seeing Somerset win. What I'm disappointed about is the standards. You know, I'm talking about even when Somerset was not winning, but there was a modicum of respect for the opposition, and guys really came to play. I mean, you know, it wasn't. You know, and I'm a little concerned about. I'm even about the dress code. I think that's going back a little bit. You know, I don't think that players are really wearing, and I'm gonna look at your team right now, Dean, because where you've come from, there's such a high standard on the Vendor and Clay, and you guys when you played. I just watched the whole body language when guys walk in the field as if, you know, I'm getting the impression that they're only playing for themselves. They're not playing for St. George's Cricket Club. Even when Somerset was not doing as well as they are right now, when those guys walked on the field, they walked on the field representing Somerset Cricket Club. They represented the fans, they represented the families, they represented the clubs. And I just, you know, and even a thing like one time a Somerset player was trying to go, walked on the field with a beer bottle in his hand. And I said to him, hey, bro, you know, that's not acceptable, really, you know. And he looked at me and said, F you, but he didn't stay in the team long either. You understand what I'm saying to you, right?
Yeah.
So So I mean, I'm not saying that because of me, but I'm sure others saw it and made comments. But Somerset fans held you to a high standard.
Mm.
You see, um, there's some things that everybody didn't see, but you can guarantee that, you know, by the time I got him, even when I was coaching football, I got an earful.
Hmm.
You see, so what I think that's going out of the game for me is just that I think that players will make a little bit more extra change, and it's more about the money than about the earned personal performance. And again, like you said, Dean, you know, they lost sight of the fact that they're entertainers. Wendell Smith, as boring as he was in his bed, he was entertaining. He knew that I'm gonna do whatever's necessary to keep that cup in St. George's.
Yeah.
If I had to go out there and block for 6 hours,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
You know, and when Doc walked on the field, you knew that Doc walked in the field, that he went out there with a mission. You could tell from the minute he walked out of the pavilion that he was on a mission. I can give you a story. Alan Douglas shared it with me. Richard Bearson's first cup match. They were down St. George's. He was sledging everybody. When Richard walked the field, Alan said, "Whatever you guys got to say to him ain't gonna work because this boy is on today." Before he even faced his first ball. So the whole approach to the field of confidence and an era of we want to call it arrogance seems to have gone out of some players. When Chris Douglas walked out in the field on Thursday morning, but that Thursday afternoon, just by his walk in the field, he sent a message.
Yeah.
He sent a message. Yeah. And so all of that psychological part of the game, I think that we're not addressing. We're addressing all of the ability to play shots and where to play balls, but we're not dealing with the psychological part of the game. Not only in cricket, but in all of our sports, we're not really dealing with the psychological part of the game and the like. And I know it's come up a lot in the Olympics about mental stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to look and see where our players are. Sometimes, you know, I could tell sometimes in training, I can look at the players and say, well, this is not going to work tonight, just by their body language. And if you look at Summers' cup match team, in the first hour, by their body language, they weren't in it. They were not in it, just watching their body language. And then something clicked and they turned it on and then they went from there.
Yeah.
You see, and in my view, if Summers would have came on the field with the intensity that I thought they should have had, the game might have been over by 6 o'clock the first day. You know, so
I can mute your mic, you know.
Hmm?
I can mute your mic, you know.
Yeah, but you could do that, Mr. No, but I'm just saying is I think that this is a piece that we're losing in all of the technical parts that we're developing. We're not dealing with the mental development of our players, and we're not dealing with matters that really drive into them that you're not just a cricketer. When you walk on that field, you are an entertainer. And I go back to the days even in school when Maxwell Brock used to say to us, as long as you have on that Sands uniform, you belong to me.
Mm.
If I hear a report of you 7 o'clock at night in town, first of all, I'm going to ask you why you're still in your uniform, or not him, but your mind. You see, and so I'm not too sure as clubs. I think that what we've done is that, and as a society, we have lowered our disciplinary standards, and we think that by being hard on somebody means that you're being cruel. And so we've lowered standards to make people feel better about themselves, but we've damaged our product in the process.
Mm. Would you consider this because you could tell it's coming from a social aspect that's filtering into sports?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we attack the social aspect, or do we kind of attack the sports side that could actually help the social side?
Well, you see, Earl, I think the challenge that we've had, every time something goes wrong, we want to blame sports.
Right.
But sports is a microcosm of a society.
Mm.
So it has to be a holistic approach, in my view. We have to go back to reasons about setting higher standards. And when I say setting higher standards, we have to raise people's expectations. Okay? I think that what we've done is that we've lowered standards, and as a result, lowered expectations. So the higher we raise the expectations and standards, then people have something to strive towards. We cannot make everything easy in life because life is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I look at the school system. You don't want to say somebody came first, second, or third, or whatever the case may be. But when they come into the work world, they have to compete. You see, you can't. Earl, if you want to get a job doing what you're doing, if you don't have the temerity to go and get it, right, then you're not going to get it. But what we've done, we've lowered standards so much that as soon as a young man or a young woman comes into the real world or the work world, where you now have to compete and you have to put your best foot forward in order to get that job. And in case of cup match, if you pick your best players in order to get in the cup match, you've got to go through a process that you're not used to or ever being experienced. Then the first thing you do is act out. The first thing you do is to say, oh, Simons is a bad so-and-so because he didn't give me a job. Or Doc is bad because he challenged me to do something that worked better than what I should do. Same thing in sports. Oh, Doc now says, I'm not accepting this from you. I think you need to do X, Y, and Z. The first thing he does is you act out, and then it becomes a social problem.
Right. I know I was kind of taken back when, even in track and field for primary school, middle school, and all that, and they started giving out 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th ribbons for competition. That's lowering standard.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because what you're telling somebody that comes 8th, here's a prize. It's okay to come 8th. When we were doing school, if you didn't come in the top 3, the rest of you were ushered off to the side, and those 3 were given the ribbon.
And what we've done is cheapen success.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, okay, I know Florida obviously flavor of the month right now, right? This is what, our 3rd or 4th Olympics?
4th
Olympics. What happened in the first one?
Did not finish.
And how many of us right now today, if we had failed the first one, wouldn't have got up and tried again?
Not many.
Right. So this is what we should be lauding and applauding, right? It's okay to fail. I mean, it's okay not to be successful the first time. I'm not going to say failure, because as far as I'm concerned, failure just means that anytime you fail in life is when you don't get up and do it. You know, that's to me. If you fall at the first hurdle and you don't want to get up and try to make it again, then that's when you fail. But we encourage people to say, oh, well done, Johnny. At least you tried to get over the first hurdle. No, Johnny. This is what you need to do to get over the first hurdle so you can get over the second one and the third one. Right? But we're making it okay for and making people feel okay for not trying. And now we get to cup match, and we're asking these players, now we get to international competitions, and we're asking these players to deal with adversity when we have never taught them how to deal with adversity. And so this is what we have to do. We have to tell people that it's okay. Storms in life come. I mean, that's why you got 4 seasons. Winter time is rough, it's cold, and you can't wait till spring comes so you could break out and get ready for summer. But after summer's over, you got to go back into autumn, and you got to go back into difficult periods and everything else, right? Like I try to tell my athletes, I said, a lump of coal becomes diamonds through pressure. You know, all of the great things in life that you like comes through pressure and adversity. And so we have created an environment for our kids to say that they could sail through life. But what happens when a wave comes? Or the wind direction changes? We're going to fall apart, and that's what's happening. And it's not just in sport, but it's in every facet of our life in Bermuda that we don't want to talk about. We just want to sugarcoat everything and make it look pretty.
Interesting. Let's take another quick commercial break, and when we come back, I know, Dean, you have another question for us. We'll be right back.
John Barrett & Son, Bermuda's favorite distributor of fine beverages, has brought us a new and refreshing thirst quencher just in time for the approaching warm weather. Hint Water in 7 luscious flavors. Hint Water is slaking the thirst of active people who need pure hydration, low on the glycemic index, and want the kind of taste experience that keeps them coming back to try the next flavor. For those who've been giving water a miss, Hint may win you over. Hint Water. No sugar, no additives, all flavor. Lynn knows. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. D?
Yeah. And, I'm just processing. I had another question, but I asked this one. Do you think that right now it will probably definitely for our national teams to, I guess, look at someone like a sports psychologist, to bring in a sports psychologist to assist, I guess, all our athletes? Definitely when we're looking at international competition, definitely looking at even our local structure. I mean, someone that will be able to, assist, because just as you said, I think the talent, Bermuda has always been very talented.
Yeah.
But I mean, even us, when we experienced the going to the World Cup, I just figured that once we went to that next level, it was definitely eye-opening, a bit of a challenge, and Logie, Mr. Logie helped us, through that. But again, do you think that it is time for us to invest in somewhere of, like you said, a sports psychology for all our international athletes?
Yeah, D, and I'm glad you said that, because in 2007, when you guys had qualified for the World Cup, we were trying to get a sports psychologist on board for you to assist you through that, because we knew that that was our new frontier, and the only person that had been to that level was Gus Logie. And we did discuss trying to get, and I even remember a gentleman had made a proposal to us, but for whatever reason it fell through. Yes, Dean, and let me share something with you. For me, but I did track and field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody used to tell me that I was a better athlete than I actually was on the field, even to say Cal Deal. And when it dawned on me that was true was when I did sports psychology at university. All right. So yes, Dean, I think that is very important that we need to have a sports psychologist on board for all levels of sport, for all levels, not just for our national squad, because I think that some players have mental blocks that stops them from going to the next level. And if you look at what happens in our country, those edgy players who really excel are considered to be rude. Right? Are considered to be rude. When actually what it is a confidence level that we have not been able to manage and control or direct. Control is a bad word. Is a level that we have not been able to manage and direct. Okay? And so what happens is, and let me call Chris Douglas's name. Okay? I saw him perform in Malaysia, and I looked at him, and he got in his 30s, and you could see he got bored and started giving and gave his wicket away. Chris is a cerebral player. He's very intelligent, but that intelligence means that he also doesn't have time for a lot of foolishness, even though he likes to act a fool. But he acts that fool so he can so others can be comfortable around him. But we take some of his actions as being arrogant and rude, but that's not what it is. He's brilliant. And we have not tapped into that brilliance yet. And he is not alone. There are a lot of players, not only in cricket and in football and track and field, who are really brilliant or are borderline geniuses. But because of their approach and the way they manage themselves, we think is rude, and then we try to beat them down and suppress their greatness. So yes, we need sports psychologists, and we also need people to understand that these individuals are geniuses in their own right.
Mm. Doc?
No, that's so true. What Norbert was saying, because we even at the on the 19 level when we went away, we also qualified for the World Cup right after the senior team, and we were saying the same thing. We need to get our sports psychology, for those guys too, because you're dealing with under 19 players that you don't know what's happening to them when they come to the games or what when they're going away. There's so much. There's so much things you got to deal with when you take these boys away, man. And as a coach, like sometimes, like you try to lean on the side because you don't know what's going on in their life, man. And I only found that out like at that level, like when they went to Malaysia, I'm like, I felt so sorry for him, man, because that was the first time we ever qualified for a World Cup, and these guys are coming up. As soon as we ran into the hotel, they got these big 6'3" guys walking in, and all the players, and they're looking at me like, Coach, these are the coaches, there's the players. And what I'm supposed to say? Well, right away, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. Deontay Dara was like, "Oh, I don't want to play." And look how, and Deontay was one of the youngest. So this is like what I'm saying, like as a sports psychology, you just sometimes you need to sit down and talk to those guys. And as a coach, like you didn't have enough time to do all that, and it was just too bad. It was unfortunate, but the nice thing about it, after we did sit down and talk to them, we won a game, and these little boys, it was like we won the World Cup, So that was like on the ice on the cake after we had talked to them. Like Norbert said, and Dean said,
Yeah. Well, we know the Bermuda Football Association, for their national academies and their national teams, they have someone who works with the players one-on-one, talks to them, gets to them, and kind of, he does team bonding stuff, and he also does individual stuff. And you've seen a change in quite a few of the players. Yes, we have a lot of players who are overseas, but the ones that are local have just as much problems as the ones overseas because they have issues as well. But you could literally see the change in some of the guys because obviously now they're talking to someone about their problem and feeling comfortable in doing so. So they're more relaxed. Now they can get on with the business at hand.
It's funny that you say that, Earl, because I've had a few experiences like this. My first experience when I was playing for the youth team, we traveled. I believe we were in Ireland or England, whichever one. About the second one, we were in Ireland. Really quick. When we came to the hotel where we were staying at, well, another team drove up on a bus. Everyone had on the same uniform, the same gerbeg, everything. So at that time, we didn't know exactly. They look like soldiers. It's the same way. It's the same way. And I reminded Ryan Steed about this a few years ago. St. George's went to government steps. I think the premier, welcomed, the team. Somerset came in cricket uniform with their blazer. St. George's had khaki pants and had a white top on. And I was saying, and I said to him, I said, it's 1-0 already. And he was like, what do you want about? I said, it's 1-0. You're up 1-0. And he was like, no way. I said, yeah. I said, because it's little psychological things that people do that will throw you off right from the outset. With them coming in, everybody looking the same, everything looking uniform, it's scary. The same thing happened this cup match. Somerset, everybody looked the same. For the moment of silence, everybody had on a blazer, right? And it was uniform. But a lot of times people don't look at certain things like team behavior, team bonding, uniform, those sort of things. And I think we surpass it because he keeps saying to ourselves like, oh, it's just, you just got to get on the field and play. But it's not. It starts so early. I remember Gus Logie telling us everybody has to be down for breakfast early. Because when you come early and you come as a team, even if you're not even having breakfast, it sets a mood. So I think you are correct. Norbert, you're so correct that we have to go ahead and start looking at the smaller details of this thing, because right now, for a number of years, we've gone telling to learn, but no, this thing here, sports psychology and sports science, it's detailed, man. It's scary.
Yeah, Dean, I'm just to comment on that. I recall that for me, even when I was coaching, I mean, I was never an outstanding coach, but it was those little things like you recall even with the squad. I mean, when you guys in the under 19 squad, Dean, you remember all that, right?
Yeah.
Richard was a quiet type of guy, but I understood him. So my job was, as far as I'm concerned, I am going to take care of all these things that need to be taken care of, and all you have to focus in is playing cricket. Yeah. Now, I remember you guys told me I brought them Honey Nut Cheerios, and you guys are calling them Honey Nuts?
Yeah.
Because he says, at times, I don't like what to feed me at the hotel. Can you get me? And yes, Richard, I got what you asked for. This is everything. So, and even when I was coaching, right, I used to tell guys, okay, what is it that's going to help you to perform? Okay. Now you said X, Y, and Z. Now I've eliminated everything that you said. Now what's your excuse for not performing? Okay. And so I still did that today, coaching track and field. You know what I'm saying? So, God rest his soul, a little young man I had coaching Clemente. He was a gifted athlete. And not only was he gifted, he understood his sport, and he understood that he was an entertainer. You understand what I'm saying? At 15 years old, that boy understood that when he walked on that track, he put the Clemente, why you wearing that white band? Simons, when I go through the finish line, they'll see who I am. Okay? I am, and he understood he was an entertainer. And so it's not arrogance, it's confidence. And we have to instill that confidence in our players. Before they step across that line, they have to know that everything is right. When they walk into that change room, the jerseys are laid out, this is laid out, that's laid out. We say we're spoiling them. I say that we're preparing them for the bigger picture. You see? So if they just have to come in the change room, everything is laid out for them, X, Y, and Z. If you look at professional teams, right? Mo Salah's jersey and the same, this is where he sits. And athletes are superstitious. Sportsmen are superstitious. Dean, you must have the favorite pair of socks you wore, and if you didn't wear them, you felt you were going to bat well or Vicky keep well.
You got that right.
You understand? No, seriously.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the psychological makeup of your players. So if you understand your players and you know them, then you know what's going to turn them or get them to the next level. And as coaches sometimes, and this is the unfortunate thing, that we have one coach trying to do everything, and that's not fair to the coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Not fair.
So it's not fair to the coach. So a coach needs an assistant. You need somebody to, and I'm going to say, in cricket, you're going to need somebody that's going to work on specifics for batting. Somebody's going to have to work on bowling. Somebody's going to have to work on fielding and the like. And there's somebody's got to work on the psychological makeup of his team. And that's not just in football, in team sports, individual sports is the same thing. All of that is important, man. All of that's important.
And another point to that is not just do the players need that help, but the coaches need that help as well.
Yes.
Because they have to be able to recognize when Doc's having a problem and then call Norbert to say, Norbert, I think you need to have a chat with Doc.
Yes.
Just to help them understand what they're looking for, because you guys have coached. You know when a guy shows up to training and you look at him and you can say, this ain't gonna happen today.
Yeah.
So you put him to the side. You say, maybe tonight's not the night to train.
Yeah.
Just sit on the side. But you have to be able to recognize that on a regular with everybody and then get them the help that's needed.
And Earl, I'm glad you said that, because we seem to think that coaches are robots.
Yeah.
Because if you're a coach, that means you're responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have responsibility as a coach, you have responsibility in other facets of your life
Yeah.
that you have to take care of. If you got a wife and children, they're going to make demands of you, and you have to learn how to compartmentalize. And that's not easy.
Right.
And when you start compartmentalizing, then people start to, oh, you don't care. It's not a question of care. It's self-preservation.
Mm.
It is self-preservation. So yes, coaches need that assistance too. Because at the end of the day, when the team does badly, everybody looks at the coach.
Yeah.
The players look at the coach. He walks down the street and somebody's cussing him off. And he can't respond, or if he does respond, what's your problem?
Mm.
You know, so yeah, the coach needs help too. So, and I think that we've asked too much of our coaches, and we don't give them anything to assist them. I mean, you can't expect one man to be coaching 16 players by himself, or 20 players, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Right. Right. Any final question, Doc?
No, like Norbert explained everything, man. I've been coaching for years, and I'm always had that problem, and definitely need that.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably why Dean didn't get into coaching.
No. I normally do the high school. When I used to, I had a stint at Flats. I coached there, and it was a bit of a challenge. You leave school, and Norbert would tell you this, and I take my hat off to Norbert because he did it for a number of years. You leave the classroom, and then you go and you have to go ahead and coach. Oh man! By the time I went to coach, my patience was real thin. It was thin. So it was just like I can't. Oh man, gee. But Norbert, I've got a question for you. I think I guess we need to go into a direction of a slogan that we could probably look towards either next year or either in the coming weeks. Let's stamp it out and that's bad behavior. Something that maybe a group of former players or something that we could probably get together and go around to different clubs and talk to different players. But I think, coming from, I'm just thinking maybe coming from youth in sport or coming from the club aspect that we could stomach, like a slogan, like let's better behave, let's stamp it out. I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, Dean, I think that I know that a few years ago we had I'm gonna get it wrong. We had a handbook, a guide for coaches. We did it around 2007. For players, for coaches, for the media.
Okay.
Because all of that plays a part, you see, because I think that the media in Bermuda needs to be managed as well.
Right.
Because anything that goes wrong in your sport, they make a big story out of it.
Yep.
And it makes it look worse than what it really is. And so, we have to, and you're right, Dean. I think that before I retire, and I'd like for us to get together and at least get this started again, because, this is too important to all of us. I mean, the direction that sports goes in this country is the direction the country goes. There was a saying that we had in Somerset, the way Somerset goes, the way the rest of the country goes. Well, Somerset went south, and the country went south. And now Somerset is going to play back, the country's going to come back.
There you go.
But it's standards because, and I think that we have to. Somebody's got to take the lead in this. And while, and quite frankly, since we're always getting the blame for things that go wrong in the country, maybe we need to be the ones to stand up and say, this is what we're accepting and this is what we're not going to accept.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mr. Simons, I want to thank you very much for your time this evening. I'm pretty sure that the viewers got an earful and hoping that we can actually get something off the ground and running regarding Stamp It Out, because what we need to do is put a stop to it and then work on making it a lot better. And again, it's not going to happen overnight, but if we start addressing it now, in a few years' time, maybe we would have turned the corner. But if we continue to allow it to go on and manifest itself, it's actually going to get worse and worse and worse. So I'm on board to try and work out how we can address it as opposed to ignore it and hope it goes away, because when bad things are ignored, they just progressively get worse.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dean, I'm here. You can call me tomorrow if you can get started on it.
Okay, buddy. I think Earl just came up with the slogan, let's stamp it out.
Check it out.
Well, you said it. I just copied.
Sounds
We'll
good, man.
talk.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think it will go a long way, man.
Yeah.
It's too much. The thing about it, and we talk about it all the time, the amount of talent that is in this island,
Yeah.
it's phenomenal, man. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Mm.
Yeah, I went down and I saw the junior county game in St. David's. I saw a little bit of that, but it's just talent. It's absolutely talent. We're blessed with talent in this island.
But we just have to manage their expectations.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you very much, folks. Have a good night.
Good night.